call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. This March 4th meeting of the West Bridgewater Water Commission. Anybody have comments on the last 7 minutes?
Nope. I'll make a motion to review and accept the minutes of February 20th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, put $5 in the cell phone jar.
It's town business.
All right. Warrants and abatements have been signed. I don't believe we had any refunds tonight.
No.
Next item on new business, Steve Shaw, Di Bertolo Development, extending the water line down Lincoln Street.
That's me. That's an old print, so when you look at the water lines, originally we're going way in up there. Now I believe you're coming down and going in right here.
That's correct, that's correct. So, are you Wayne?
Yes.
Hey,
Yep.
Wayne, Steve, nice to meet you.
Yep.
So Wayne asked me to come up here today, I guess, to have this discussion. This has been ongoing, I think, conversation since my predecessor, Rich Hartline, who was involved in this project. I kind of took over from him about a year ago. And Tracy had asked me, in addition to Wayne, to finally get up here and have this discussion with you guys with regards to possibly extend as far as we can down Lincoln Street. I've got SLT is out there currently doing some work. Wayne, I know you guys have been very involved in that process so far. What we looked at and what the pricing I've gotten, there's probably about 1,200 linear feet to get to South Elm Street. And then the cost on that, from my understanding, I got this literally as soon as I got off the plane, it's about $400,000 in total. The reason being it's a little bit more expensive because they've got open cut some of the roadway. Unfortunately, spacing and distancing criteria on that. If we could have kept it on one side of the roadway like we have it now, that would have been ideal, but they've got a crossover to miss a gas line for horizontal separation. So the pricing here includes open cutting, going back, replacing that asphalt as they go down the roadway. So kind of here just to open the discussion today. I know we've got some fire sprinkler charges that will be coming our way to see if we can try to extend it down as far as we can. We'll offset those with the fire sprinkler charges if you guys are okay, acceptable to that. But really, that's my primary ask.
That was the idea we had early on. We want to get that extended as far as we can to try to finalize the loop. So while you're in there doing the piping for everything else, and you're going to be working there anyway.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, one of the things, because obviously we try to balance in it, not knowing your specific criteria, but could this be something that we could do to be an as-built rather than having to go through the process of having plans, designed by an engineer, submitted for review and approval? I'm just trying to shorten that time frame because you look at it right now, we've got the contractors out there doing the work, so I hate to see him pull off before we get this done.
Yeah, he's almost done, I guess.
Yeah.
He's reached the end point. He wants to start filling to kind of chlorinate it because he got some muck in there.
Yes.
And they know our specifications because they've been working from them anyway.
Yeah.
It should really just be a matter of making sure, confirming on the location where they want it to go in the roadway, making sure the highway doesn't have an issue with anything that's being done. What was the fee we had figured out? I don't remember off the top of my head.
That's a long time ago now. So back then it was before the rate increase, but I forget your warehouse is how many square feet?
350,000.
Yes, I finally noticed some steel going up over there driving by the other day.
We drastically underestimated how much import needed to be brought to the site, so it's been a whole other process, yeah.
So at the old rate it was $283,500.
283,500.
Yeah. And that doesn't include the domestic charge. Eventually you'll figure out what you're gonna have for a water meter.
Yeah, we've got a 4-inch service line, I'm very proud of that, with Silva coming in.
Yeah, that's probably about $70,000.
So we'd be looking at getting almost to 1,200 feet if we waive those fees.
Yeah.
There's a trade-off.
What was 70,000 for? So the 283 was for
4-inch meter.
Yeah, the 4-inch meter. That doesn't include the cost of the meter, right?
there.
This is Tom with the Barlow. How's everyone doing? I will say the engineering fees weren't included in the number, so that's why we asked about the possibility of.
And I believe that without as-building afterwards, that's fine, because you're on the sidewalk side anyways heading down, you know, it's not, I don't think we need to see a set of plans.
And there's also, 10, 15 grand in police coverage that you guys,
Oh, I know.
because your relationship might be able to sort of. I don't know how it
No,
works.
so you get a discounted rate, we pay a full rate. You actually get it cheaper.
Then we,
I wish we had that kind of thing, but we don't. We pay their overtime rate, which I get it.
yeah.
It's a town thing.
No, as long as we had ties for where anything crossed, ties to valves, because that section has, you don't have that survey all the way down there, even for that road.
No, but I mean, we can, SLT, I'm sure they'll probably get a surveyor out, at least to stake it out initially for them as they go down, as best they can.
Yeah, but as far as, we're not looking for a roadway or actual roadway survey. But if we
Correct.
could get, as long as we had that line marked out with the GPS and we had ties through it as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I don't see why we need that.
You had a million of his engineers working on the project in the beginning. It was hard to keep track of who was who.
Likewise, yeah, I understood that, as I got involved, I realized that it was pretty complicated from that perspective, but.
I feel like we'd be fine with going as-built, but I don't know if there's any
I
other
agree.
commissions in town that would have an issue. I know there's a wetland crossing or a stream underneath the roadway, so I don't know if any other commissions in town would have an issue with that.
We have somebody here from conservation who can put on the spot if he doesn't mind.
And I think we addressed most of those with the sidewalk,
Yeah,
those
sidewalk.
impacts, so.
Pretty much is already
Yeah.
permitted and addressed, so what's under it doesn't matter to you. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
No, I mean, unless do you have any issue with not having a set of design plans prior?
No, I think it's, the as-built is the way to go.
And Wayne, you good with what you've seen so far in the pipe?
Yeah, they've been really good to work
Okay,
with.
good.
Their SLT has been really good to work with.
Good.
Yeah, I think we'd rather have you spend money on putting pipe in the ground than getting a design plan made
Yeah,
for us.
that'd be great.
So, the way I figure if you had, you said $400,000 was your,
That's where we're at,
for
yeah.
1,200 feet?
That includes, basically getting us down to South Elm, correct?
Yes, sir.
To the island, South Elm and Lincoln.
That's what the plans keep,
Yeah.
yes, sir. And we'll send you a plan marked up, and, if we come to some sort of.
I mean, we can do just a rough red line and send it so everybody knows what we're working off of,
Yeah.
as they move forward. And then that way you guys have something, we'll as-build it as we go along.
You know, if you can give us that, I don't have an issue with
Neither do I.
in fact, we had sort of asked for that in the first place, was to trade off the
Yeah.
fees coming in to
Yeah.
get that pipeline in the ground.
Understood.
So,
And you give us something that just saying it's an extension of our current permit, we can keep going, right? We need something official from your side. if that's
Yeah, I think I
okay.
had to send something out originally. I'll find the letter and then we'll modify it.
yeah, 'cause I thought we did send something before.
Yeah.
Did it affect like a road opening permit or anything?
No, it was just that we were in agreement, or the commissioners were in agreement that,
No, I'm just thinking for them, if they need to,
oh,
Is there
well, they
anything-
already have a road opening permit,
Yeah,
I
we should,
believe.
we should, yeah.
does it cover that?
Cover that work?
Well, actually, it would, because you're doing the sidewalk anyway.
That's correct, that's correct. Well, we got a separate permit for the sidewalk. I'm not sure if actually Tracy's issued a road opening permit, because that was more associated with 106. But I know they've been actively working, I can check and get back to you on that.
But to the extent that's an issue, you guys can help expedite it. If the plan is to keep it going, that's something we need help expediting, right? Because if they make us go through the permitting process for
Well,
that.
we can ask,
We can ask, but
we don't have control over what other.
we're an enterprise funded system, so we're really we're town, but separate from the town.
Understood.
Which is why we pay more for the details than you
Understood. So, yeah, that'd be, if we could look at offsetting fire sprinkler and also domestic charge, I think that'd get us there. You guys are in agreement with that?
Okay.
Yeah, you'll still have to pay for the water meter. I don't know what that's gonna cost at the
Yeah,
time.
the actual cost of
That's
that.
fine.
But no, if you wanna mark up a plan and
Okay.
show us what, where you're gonna go to, and like at our next meeting, we can run that through and I should be able to send something to you.
Now, if you, given the fact that they're, like you said, you're getting ready to pull off, we'll get this work going.
They're all straight from here on. I'm not sure where you're gonna cross over at, but they're in front of the thing, so you're still a long ways away from the stream bed, so.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I just wanna make sure from a timing perspective, they don't pull off and have to remobilize.
Yeah,
It's
no,
also just choosing to how much it costs to get them.
Yeah.
Wait, where are they coming in? Is that green line indicative of the water
No,
line?
that's dead.
Well, yeah, I believe that's still where they're coming in. I remember seeing it in the center of the building still, so that,
Yeah, he just asked about the green line, that green line
That
is
was
not.
the original plan.
Well, that was
Yeah.
actually the second plan. The original plan was what
Yeah.
we're back to, that kind of.
yeah, because we were coming down from above, below the
Coming
shell
back.
station.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
coming all the
they're
way down the
fine.
second driveway.
Great.
coming
They're right across from the
We're right at
proposed
the
soccer
south of our
field.
property.
But how far
That's
south
tied
does it
into
go
that
towards-
6-inch right there.
Does it go to the far end of the corner? Because they don't have any,
I
So
think,
we're tying right now across, we're tying in the 6-inch right here, right in front of this home.
okay.
And that's where that road, that's where we're stopping currently.
yeah, you were going a little past. Yeah, because right now they're coming into the front of the building and then they're just going out either side of the building. They're not wrapping the building with a
Yeah, the way they did.
sprinkler line.
Oh, they're not? They're
No.
not, the fire department, the insurance company doesn't require them to loop around the building?
I wasn't involved in design, sorry, so I'm just taking whatever they had worked out with the engineers, so.
Yeah, the last plan I saw wasn't, and we're actually getting, I spoke with the engineering firm today to remove, she had a whole pile of gates, so we're actually saving you some money. We don't need all of those gates.
Oh, it's perfect, good. Good. All right.
Okay, well, our next meeting will be in 2 weeks, so if you get something over to us, send it through Wayne,
Okay.
and we can have it on the agenda for the next one. Maybe make a phone call or two about like the highway or something, see if there's gonna be any issue. And I don't see any issue with doing it that way from our end.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Just to get an idea, Wayne, how much do you think that would cost us to do?
Honestly, I forget what I calculated one time, but at prevailing rate, it's a lot.
3 times as much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But I'm just, so if they didn't continue on to South Elm, they'd essentially have a long dead end. So how would that,
Well, they'll be tied back into the 4-inch.
oh, they're tying Ridgely back into the 4-inch anyways at that island? there at South
And
Elm?
it's still tie in,
Yeah.
long term, we wanna be able to put that down and close that loop.
Yep, hang on a second. You wanted to call you?
Alright. How old is that 4-inch main in there? Any idea?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how old 4-inch is existing?
He might go, he can pull it up from that. It's old. I mean, nothing in that area is relatively
You
new.
guys make good time coming out of Boston. I need you guys as my chauffeur when I go in there. I hate that.
Wait, how old is that 4-inch main coming down?
Oh, it's old.
Yeah, it's old.
We're old.
In this town, it's either pretty new or it's old.
60s, 50s?
Oh, old's gonna look for a reboot. This is gonna take forever.
Well, that's alright. We can, what is that?
That's a pitless adapter.
That we need to replace?
Yeah.
Snap doesn't want to come
That's alright.
up. You asked, it's your fault.
Well, I've been meaning to get it on my iPad, so.
It's.
I know, I just gotta get it.
I was gonna tell you to come in early.
Yeah. How does that work? Do we have to accept it and then, do we accept it as is, or do we have to go in front of the selectmen and they work, doing the work? Which is part of the original contract with the owner of the building. Do we have to accept that water line that's in the street when everything's all said and done with, because then it becomes property of the town? How does that?
Wait, that's why Wayne or somebody from here is looking, watching what's going on.
But we have to accept it.
Before we let them put it in, they has to pass the pressure test,
Yeah.
pass the disinfection,
All right.
and like I said, if it's SLT, it's probably not gonna be an issue.
So they gotta pressure test it and chlorinate it all the way from Crescent and West, all the way down to the end of this?
Well, they could do it in segments.
Wow.
Okay, you gotta test it all, it's gonna all.
No, I'm just saying, I just.
Hold the pressure
I've tested
eventually.
plumbing job before, and it was nothing, I mean, not a million gallons of water in a 12-inch pipe. 24 hours.
Yeah, it's nothing to these guys.
No,
You do it all the time.
1912.
1912?
Yep, just in time for the overture.
Help us all. Anyway. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I think that's it. So just as follow-up, we'll send you a proposed kind of layout from just, well, rough sketch, just what we're gonna do. You guys will have another vote in the next 2 weeks, and then let us
Yeah,
know.
we'll have it on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, and we can,
But you want your guys to stay out there to keep going, right?
I do, I mean, if we could,
So you might have to make a preliminary vote, just a preliminary, keep them moving until
you
you
think
see
they're
the...
that close to leaving, you think?
Yeah, they're that close. They want to begin putting water in their main now, so, yeah, they're done.
So if they, all right.
Well, I'd say as long as there's no additional cost to the town. So no matter what, that number that we agreed upon, that 353 as opposed to your 400, so there is no additional cost to us at all to move forward with this.
I will just say this out loud, because we've hit stump dumps out there, we've hit all sorts of things. So, needless to say, this price is assuming that we don't have any
Well,
major
un-
obstacles, and if we
unforeseen
do, you're gonna see it.
conditions is-
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we open, it's not gonna be like, oh, if we hit the river, which we don't expect to, we're gonna say, hey, guys, come out, look what we're dealing with here, we have to go across this way now. But we're in the ground, there's unforeseen stuff that happens in the
Yeah.
ground.
If you come across a pile of ledge, that's a different animal.
How's it been so far for the half a mile that you've already traveled down?
We've had some issues with stumps.
Those were big trees, so.
Yeah, so we've had some issues, but, you know, given the amount of volume we have, we've been able to work with
All
the
right.
contractor, but it has resulted in some additional costs. There's nothing that would take away hundreds of feet, but, yeah, a couple of hundred, a couple of thousand here, a couple of thousand there. It
Because
is.
we're tight here for.
No, listen, I understand, that's why I raised this issue, because I don't wanna, you're making a point to us, I don't have to retrade anybody, if something happens in the ground, we'll discuss it, and you'll all see it.
yeah, no, I think the intent is, that, you know, we would say get 353,000 as far as we can. Hopefully, I guess the South Elm, that's the intent today.
Well,
But,
we
you
plan
know,
on getting it to southbound.
both things, so. What's that?
We want it to go to
Yeah,
southbound.
we want,
Yeah.
but if
We don't want to have any, well, we're 50 feet short.
Yeah, I mean, if we get into a situation where there's something uncovered that we didn't plan on, we'll let you know right away. But so far from the water main installation along Lincoln, we've had no major issues. All the stumps have been associated with the site work itself.
with all the stuff they did over there over the years, not an issue.
So they took, in front of the houses were some big trees. They were like 4 feet across.
So if we have a vote to conditionally approve extending the water main on an as-built basis without having plans,
Yeah.
and final location subject to seeing what you come up with, but that way they can continue to work.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion as chair? Sure I can.
You can entertain a motion.
Can entertain it.
For somebody else to make it for me to entertain it. I'm trying to make sure we get the wording reasonably good. Would you like to make a motion?
You want me to fumble my way through this? I make a motion to waive the sprinkler in domestic.
I wasn't gonna get to, just to get it, right now, just to conditionally approve there, so that they can keep working.
Continue construction.
We don't have to put the numbers to it at the moment, just continue construction of the water main in Lincoln Street towards towards Elm Street,
I mean,
without a,
No,
Are you-
but you saying with the understanding that the common goal is that we apply any of our fees towards
yeah,
that.
with the understanding of working towards a trade-off on fees for pipe, which we've already had that in.
right, you're not just
Yeah.
looking for approval, you're looking for.
I think we all.
Yeah, we're looking for you to waive those fees,
Yeah.
yeah. 'Cause
Well,
obviously-
we will, that's the point, is we'd waive the fees in conjunction with it, but, or you can put that in, it's fine.
I don't know how to say it without putting it in. All right, I make a motion to waive the sprinkler and domestic water tie-in fees in exchange for running the water main continuing down Lincoln Street to South Elm Street,
Approximately 1,200 feet.
approximately 1,200 feet,
Mhm.
Fair.
barring any.
And without submitting design plans prior to, for approval prior to continuing the construction.
On an as-built
Because,
basis.
yeah, because that's why we need, so they can keep going, we need to, waiving that is, we need to have that in there.
Okay.
Try again.
From the top?
Hold on a second.
Make a motion to waive the sprinkler tie-in fee and domestic tie-in fee for Di Bartolo to extend the water main down Lincoln Street to South Elm Street on an as-built basis.
I'll second that motion.
Carrie, you caught up?
Mhm.
Okay. And we'll leave the total, we'll wait for your sketch and get that in, and we'll take a look at that at the next meeting.
There's,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Yes?
now there is a couple, just one other thing. We've had a couple requests for water service connections, like an 8-inch for some of the commercial properties.
They're supposed to pay for that. I made that,
Yeah, no, but how do you want to handle that?
we don't wanna touch it at all.
Are we sending a bill directly to them and
Yes.
negotiating with that property owner, or having our contractor, or are we filtering that through the water department?
Where is this, at the top of the street?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
there are two, there's, I forget the guy's
Oh,
name.
one of them was in
There's the
here.
gold place, and the cow voodoo thing, and then there's the car wash that wants to be on the other side. And the car wash resurfaced recently.
But they'll have connection fees when they eventually tie into it. That they
Oh yeah, they're gonna
pay
have
to
tie-in
us.
fees to us too.
So I mean, they're
But
just
they
talking
owe
about the
them
tap,
for
the tap for
Right,
that location while they're doing the work now.
yeah, because when they start running, you're not gonna go back out and tap a brand new water main. They, it requires fittings. There are keys, valves, and pipe associated with it.
Yeah, but we wanna stay out of it, just.
Right.
You negotiate the price with them, you bill them directly.
Okay, that's just needed clarification. Okay,
Make sure you get it up front.
yeah, all right, understood. All right, thank you, appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Are you in tomorrow?
Can I have somebody away?
No,
Oh,
you
you
can.
No, we'll take care of that.
And I will-
Thank you very much.
Tim, what are you in here for?
48 Vital Ave.
Yeah, so they want to,
Well,
I'll let you
I
speak.
say, so we're gonna pop over to him,
Yeah, no
take
worries.
it out of order, just because you're gonna be allowed.
Well, actually, James being here is a good thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't hear that every day.
Always.
Tim Hay, from the Conservation Commission.
And so I'm not quite sure the process, how you normally deal with these, but there's a new house being built at 48 Vital Ave. And in the process, the road drainage drains onto that property currently. But the DPW wants to put in a catch basin to alleviate the roof runoff onto their property. I did share a
Yeah, I have the
plan, but I made a copy. I just made one unfortunately, but
So,
This is over where we're gonna be things.
yeah, so they want to dump out right here.
there's a couple on the plan, basically.
That's, on the
They were-
plan I saw, that's.
Right, they've designed it so it'll go from here and stay on their property. Puts it closer down here. We're thinking the other option would be to put it more towards the triangle.
Right.
So it's less pipe, further distance from where any of the
I
wells.
couldn't make this decision because there's a treatment plant going in there, so. If there was nothing happening, it would have been fine, but there's something happening.
Right, and that's why we said, okay, put the brakes on it, let's talk to you guys first and figure out what might work, if there is anything that could work.
So what is the
This is
plan?
over by.
Norman Ave.
They're coming right
Yeah, so this is Norman Ave right back here,
Drain down to
Okay,
here.
and this is the
Yeah.
sand pit
And then.
in Norman. I can scroll it over
Like this,
so you can see.
which would be
Yeah.
on
So, yeah, no, I know where
water
we're at.
department's property in the
So
corner
from our
here. It'd be
perspective, it would
a Less
really be no
distance, less
different
pipe, and
than.
further away from.
I didn't know where the plant was going, so.
I think,
Discharge?
I mean, we're gonna do that
Discharge
as
or
a
putting a
team.
dry well, so
Yeah.
here
I
it's
think
higher
our
elevation,
moving
so
option
they
right
have to
now
do
is over
something
on
a
Sear,
little bit
on
different.
that plateau
If it
by
came in,
wells,
it's
one
gonna
and
have
two.
Oh, up here, all right,
Regular
so,
water.
So from here, like there, right?
We-
So-
yeah, it was right there.
Instead of just a straight catch basin.
I'm a homeboy.
Storm scepter or something, you take out the
You
oil,
overlay the oil
and grease.
Yeah.
I mean, I,
And then-
All right, I didn't
Put it into an
Yeah, I
underground
thought maybe
system,
you were going over
leach
here.
down in.
We have looked there, we haven't ruled it out.
but I knew you were
Okay.
doing,
But I mean, as
directional
long
drilling
as
or
it
something,
doesn't
or
impact
we
those
said-
zone
so I didn't
ones,
wanna
it's not anything.
go
we
forward
can-
with anything.
Well, that's the other
We'll be
thing, like
putting
they're
in
dumping in,
treatment
so I
plant
don't think it'll
down the
affect our
bottom
zone one, but
Hopefully,
Yeah.
he'll be
I don't
here
know if I have that on here.
Yeah,
I don't think
I mean-
they'll be within 500 feet,
But
because
the
the well's
question
all the way
was-
back here.
do you want us to leave it on their property
Right.
down here where it is, or would you rather have it?
Well, if they were gonna leave it on their property, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I have a problem with them bringing a drain out
Right.
and doing a regular discharge to grade on our property, flowing down the hill, which is kind of what that's showing. I'd rather see them either put an underground chamber in here, or an underground chamber, if we wanted to allow it onto our property, which I'm not sure. I don't know, I'm not sure we really want
There's
to.
a well down there, it's like.
Right, and
it's
that's,
Yeah,
it's
I
not-
was just looking for the less amount of pipe they had to put in
Yeah,
to the.
you're not in our
project.
zone one, but you'll be in our zone two.
yeah. Well, that's why, if anything, where this is taking up the roadway drainage,
Right.
get a storm scepter, oil and grease removal, stuff like that, ahead of their system, then come in. And it looks like they do have some room on their property as well. And if this is gonna be, this is their drive coming in,
Yep,
and it's just a house, it's not.
right, it's just a single family
You
house.
could almost put. Could almost put something under here.
So where does it drain now?
Drywall.
What,
Right now, it's just draining all across this
Oh, okay.
property,
all right.
and
They just built a house
These-
there.
Yeah.
bottom pieces down on Norman Ave have been getting quite a bit of runoff and flooding this past year with all the rain. And part of it's just because the whole road and even this piece of property, just,
Yeah, it's just where it goes.
Yeah.
there's nothing there to catch it or stop it.
No, the town doesn't have.
How far along is this house?
Oh, it's up.
They just applied for a plumbing permit today.
Yeah, that,
Just
framing wise,
finished
it's
last
up.
week.
It's like a 2-car garage under and a 2-car or a
Garage
2.5
above,
garage
yeah,
above.
Above.
It's Lucini.
It's a big enough lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, they bought it at auction a couple of years ago.
yeah, because it was just a vacant lot sitting
Yeah.
there.
But before DPW did anything, they said, go find out from the water department what they're gonna let us do, or what they prefer us to do, or how to do it, and so, they said, all right.
Would it be maintained the same way regardless of whose property it was on?
Right.
DPW take care of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be a town drain, but they're willing to give the easements, the drainage, and do some of the work to pipe it, so it's kind of a. My concern was keeping it as far away from,
Yeah, you wouldn't, well, you're away from the zone one, so.
Yeah, how far are we from, like, from this area to the well?
All right, to the corner, that triangle of the property is 508 feet. So they're just,
It's outside the zone
Yeah.
too.
yeah, is it 500? Yeah, it's just barely out. Well, it's,
Just
isn't it zone one 500?
The zone one is 400.
400.
I meant,
All right, so
I
they just-
meant the zone one. so.
Right.
And if we go down, that's dropping. Keep a few feet. If they could manage to put it in, because this is just a berm on the surface.
yeah, that's,
So what I'd kind of prefer, rather than say come into our triangle here,
try to do it in the,
yeah, come in, they've got this area where they're gonna put the drain anyway, put it
Right.
on in along here. Don't rip up our 12-inch cement pipe.
Yeah, there's an AC and water main in there.
Yeah. But I mean, in this stretch right along here, there should be room, but however they're gonna do it, whether it's dry well or they're gonna do something else, they could put it in there. But I think we would like to see the separator before it gets in there, just so, then once if it's a dry well or something, they're not gonna end up doing any real maintenance on that, but you have to come and do maintenance on this.
right, right.
So that'd work.
DPW aware of that?
Hmm?
Storm scepters, are they aware of the?
They will be.
Okay, that's all.
No, they've got a few others
Yeah.
that they've had to
Okay.
put in, but.
Yeah, that one, I just couldn't make the answer.
Right, no, and I wasn't sure whether you guys just discussed it informally, formally, or whatever, so I said, I'll come.
Well, I mean, it's not
see you
really
later.
something for us to, we don't have real control over it. It's kind of nice that the questions being
Yeah.
asked of us.
Right, well, anytime it's, especially near one of the wells, like,
Yeah, I mean, and the only other thing I think if they could somehow get it, because they're putting in those drainage basins anyway.
right.
If they could pipe it into those, that'd be acceptable also, as far, instead of going underground in that area, but that might not work, just to how the layout is.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't need another Oak Hill Way.
The what? Oh, shh.
We have to make a motion on this?
So I mean, it's in the minutes what we've discussed. I don't think we have to necessarily vote on it unless you want to really try to tie something down.
Nope.
Or we could ask to just come back to us with what they decide to do
Yep,
before they install it.
yep, I'll let you know, and I'll send a revised set of plans over, so at least you'll have one record.
Okay. I don't think we need to actually vote on it. We're not.
We had a 12-inch AC.
Yeah, that's our cross-country to it.
Yeah, the one that goes out behind the cemetery.
Well, it does connect to that.
Yeah.
How old is that?
60s?
1957.
Oh, it's
Just a baby.
still under warranty.
It's older than I am, that's a good thing.
Anything else then?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Then we will move along. Mr. Hoyt, would you like to give us an update on our projects, please?
Yes, I would. So I'll start with Manly PFAS. So we recently got the technical approval on our plans and specifications for Mass DEP. Very pleased to get that. The conditions are something we're gonna have to come back and I guess talk to you guys about in terms of what it means for budgeting construction admin. For example, there are a whole bunch of provisions in there about you updating your emergency response plans, doing a third-party cybersecurity. So all these things that are kind of outside of the scope we're currently talking about, and we're seeing it statewide. You're not being picked on, but it's kind of the new reality is every time they have an opportunity to review upgrades to a plant or construction of a new plant, they want to make sure we're building in as much resiliency as possible, right? So, it's something that, it's not a problem today, but, before the plant goes online, we're going to have all of those things. So we'll talk, I think as we kind of get towards, the construction phase, what things you want to do, what things you might want help with, and of those things, for example, the third-party cybersecurity, there is free software. So if you have the time, which I think is in short demand in West Bridgewater, but that's not necessarily an external cost, but it is extra work.
So if the system isn't connected to the internet, does that end it? I mean, we have our own internal fiber and then we have our own antenna array.
I don't know whether that's the end of the conversation or not, to be honest.
I know, that's what I'm.
Yeah, that's we have a lot of experience with the emergency response planning, and that is kind of the hot topic around those plans as we go into updates for communities right now. Is that cybersecurity? Because it's not just the internet connectivity. It's a matter of like the computers you have at the plant. Does it automatically make your staff change their password every X days? And if it's not doing that, then that's not going to score well. And most communities aren't doing that until they're being made to, because who likes changing their password every 2 months, right?
So they have some kind of a scorecard that they're gonna rate what we do and what the upgrade has to do.
And the communities that are going through that are realizing like their to-do list that's coming out of those is long. And, so far DEP understands that these are new, like we've moved the goalposts. So it's not necessarily that they're expecting everyone to be in compliance on day one, but as you know, as soon as you do one of these checklists and you come up with a list of recommendations, the implied next step is to start, making those improvements. So, that's something we can kind of summarize for you as we kind of move into the construction admin phase, make you aware of all those things. It's going to mean a lot more sampling, which is another burden. So what we'll do is kind of, once we get beyond this initial crunch of getting out to bid and getting awarded by the June 30th deadline, so we don't lose principal forgiveness, right? So that's our focus right now on that project, is get this out on the streets and get pricing, because this is a good time of year to bid. We're, in a month, we might be behind the 8 ball, right? So we want to get out to bid ASAP, and kind of once we've done that and we're, take a step back and breathe, we'll have kind of a follow-up conversation about, here are all the things you need to start to prepare for as a result of the conditions of your permit. So that being said, we're getting our final, pencils down, sub-consultants things in this week. We are internally pencils down Wednesday for our final as-bid documents. And we have now the technical approval for Mass DEP. We have a restricted pack regarding the application for SRF. And so this week our plan would be to send any supplemental information that DEP needs to finalize the SRF application. And so I think the only other hurdle we have to clear would just be your approval to go out to bid. We submitted plans and specs. I don't know if anything came out of that you want us to address at this time. And I don't mean to put you on the spot to give me your edits now, but just so you know in the planning. And then we also talked a little bit about whether the planning board needed to talk to us before we go out to bid or not. Per their website, there's a butter notification, and that's going to start to become a real issue with our schedule if we have to go through that process. So we're hoping it's less formal than that. But I know.
I didn't hear back from you. I did send an email and didn't hear back.
Okay.
I'll try calling them tomorrow.
All right.
So again, we're not trying to be pushy, but we're at the point where we need to advise you that time is of the essence, and we're doing everything we can on our to-do list to be ready, and that's kind of one thing that's currently feels out of our control, is that that planning board piece, and just making sure you guys are comfortable with the plans and specs. You don't have any changes to them. I know we met at earlier stages, so there are no surprises in there for you, but just making sure you've seen the latest and greatest, and it
And
looks
all the
good.
stuff that DEP came up with wasn't related to your process controls or the layouts, it was related to these other conditions.
Correct. Yeah, we were very pleased with the lack of technical comments on our design. Right. I think we also got the certification for putting the PFAS online as well,
Yeah.
the short term.
Yeah,
So,
but it came online last Tuesday.
so that's beautiful. So far, so good, I assume. It's a little early to know, but
Now we have to test even more.
that's going to be a
More
recurring
samples and more testing.
theme, unfortunately. And water testing, I think, is a perfect segue for the Sear Norman. So, as you may recall, I was here 4 weeks ago and we were talking about wrapping up the pilot test report. And then we got all the data from Wayne on the individual wells, and that kind of pulled the rug out from under us a bit. So our team was working all through this past weekend so that I could present some things for you guys today, because the narrative continues to change, and I think we're getting to a place where we're all going to be happy, but there are some compromises that we're going to have to discuss. So I'm going to present it to you today. I'm going to leave you guys some materials, and I expect that you're going to need to take some time with it before you make an answer, unless I make such a compelling case that one of these seems like the clearer answer today, but that's not the pressure I'm trying to put on you. So first and foremost, I'm leaving a hard copy of the pilot test report. I will say it's a lot of appendices, but we prepared an accompanying letter that gives you the so what about this.
Yeah.
That way you guys can cater, who's responsible for reading all of this versus the letter. So I'm gonna hand some stuff out. So I'll leave this here. It's just anywhere in here, okay?
Yep.
And that's mine, it says scribbled on it.
Did we send them the lead and copper survey signed document?
No?
Thank you.
Like a couple of, last meeting, they signed the lead survey.
That's mine.
Gave it to me, huh? You sure?
I'll look again.
No, well, we don't need it right now.
Well, if you'd be in the school anyway.
I thought I looked for it and I couldn't find it the next day.
Okay, so I handed out a couple things just to kind of set the stage for the conversation. But long story short, in the first packet, it's a summary of your Water Management Act and registered water volumes. And so these wells are kind of permitted two ways. They each have their individual Water Management Act maximum daily rate. So that means in a given day, you can't take any more than this out of one well. You also have a system-wide permit level of 0.87 MGD, and that's your annual average of all of your wells. So you can get that however you want, as long as none of these exceed that. And at the end of 365 days, you take your total water pumped divided by 365, and that doesn't exceed the 0.87 MGD. So that's okay, because I think if you look on the second page, we've taken a look at your water usage over the last 10 years. And you can see your average daily demand is, well under that 0.87 MGD. We're really hovering around 400,000 gallons per day, so 0.4 MGD, which I think, as Wayne will back up, that means on most days the Manley Street plant can keep up with the demand. But as we know, this water usage is largely seasonal. It is also prone to certain peak usages. That's both within a given day or within a given month, or just in the event of a fire flow or some high demand event. So we've also kind of charted the max day demand. So this is the day of the year where the most water was used. And so twice we've kind of hit that 1.8 MGD number.
Yeah, 2018 was
So is that the break?
it was a sprinkle line to a building that we couldn't find. But we searched for that. It took us a long time to find that one.
Okay. Yeah, because that one, if you notice, the average day peak kind of has a peak that follows it. That was because we had all that water kind of leaving the system.
Right, that makes sense.
So, but the other one, early was at 15?
Yeah.
That just,
Yeah, there's a couple years
that
where-
just looks like we had a real high demand. 'Cause that one didn't follow we didn't have any real change like that in the average.
Yeah, there could have been a meter replacement or calibration in there too. There could have been a rate change at that time that sometimes results.
Yeah, I want to say there's more sprinkler usage.
Yeah, more irrigation.
And so the reason why I'm presenting this is because we're now going to talk about what we want to design our SEER water treatment facility around. Right, so that's kind of what this letter aims to assist with the decision-making process. So, looking at all of these numbers, if we just set aside Manley for this part of the discussion, we understand that it's being upgraded currently. It's going to have PFAS treatment as well as a media replacement for Green Sand Plus. So we kind of see that as your primary source, meaning if you had to just pick one thing to turn on, that's it. It's going to have your most your highest water quality, so to speak. And that will handle your demands up to that 0.69 MGD. So we then kind of see the Sear Norman as being your secondary source. And the only reason why that really is relevant in the terms of this conversation is because, as you know, it currently will not have PFAS treatment. There'll be provisions in the design to allow for economic, a more economical expansion to include PFAS in the future, but on day one, we don't anticipate it'll have PFAS treatment. So, we don't think we are all pretty confident you will not be in violation of PFAS under the current regulations. There may be a day where the regulations come down, where, we've talked about this in previous meetings, like the, word on the street is it's coming, right? And when that time comes, Manly will be slightly better positioned in terms of water quality because it has that additional treatment.
So as soon as we start groundbreaking, and then the following day the DEP decides that we meet the PFAS level, we could be expected to put treatment in there for PFAS right after we started on our initial project?
That is correct, which is why I think we've had some initial discussions about, like, do we do it now? And I think just because of, so much investment is going into your system right now. And we know just based on past compliance schedules, we're several years away from that being the case. So in a perfect world where money was infinite, we would just put it in. But
So several years, that's a possibility though, several years.
so yeah, there's not a high risk that the following year
All right.
will have PFAS.
The week
but-
after the plant comes online, we shouldn't have.
Right. Yeah. Usually they give you something like a 5 years compliance schedule.
Some breathing room.
Yeah. So when it gets, once you know that that's your new permit, you have to show them how you're going to, within the next 5 years, accommodate it. And in our case, it would be, we're removing the knockout panel and we're wheeling in some vessels, and we have this other plant that shows that we're getting fantastic PFAS removed. And
Now, would we have to repilot for down there, or would we be able to?
we most likely would not need to pilot,
Okay.
especially if the results for the Fluorosorb are what we expect. We're going to have data coming in, in real time, starting last Tuesday, moving forward. Then you're going to have this other plant go online before this one even. So, by the time we're doing that, you're going to have real data, and that trumps, pilot anyway. So,
Even though it's a different, because again, Manly has a much different PFAS set of results than Sear and Norman.
well, I think Manly had higher
Yeah.
PFAS, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we could potentially make the argument that it's worth looking into the life cycle costs of various medias. There is a chance that for this specific water chemistry, your bed life is different from, source to source. I don't know off the top of my head what the threshold would be before you would give up the convenience you have of the same system in two places, right? Because that's part of what that report gets into, right, is the biological versus green sand plus. It's like, if it's a tie, why not stick with what you already have?
Right.
Yeah.
So there would have to be a pretty clear advantage to changing technologies, I think, to warrant piloting it. And it's certainly something, we can help you with the decision making on, like, when we get there. Yeah. So there are a couple different benchmarks like we can set as to what our treatment goals are at Manly. At Sear Norman. And the first would be just looking at what your maximum withdrawal rate is. So in other words, like right now, all these wells are permitted, and we could theoretically get 2.52 MGD. And that's looking at a combination. I'm looking at the WMA maximum rate column and looking at Sear Street Station 1, which is well 1A and 1B as far as DEP is concerned. We have been internally calling them wells 1 and 2 for a while. Norman Ave well 2 is the well that's over at Norman Ave that still works. Then we got Manley in the middle, and then Sear Street Station 4 is well 4, and then 5A, which is the replacement well. So if you were just to look at their Water Management Act maximum rate, a case could be made that you want to design your treatment plant for 2.52 MGD, and that would mean you have that's essentially maximum flexibility that if you ever had to turn them all on at the same time, you could. Where this is complicated is going into that TOC discussion we had last time I was here. In order to do that, we would most likely need MIX treatment of Sear well 1A and 1B. And I'll get kind of more into that as we kind of go through other cases. And then another case you could make is looking at just your usable capacity. And that's the last column. So this is what, based on redevelopments and well replacements, what you can actually get out of the ground. And that's only, 2.2 MGD. And then what we're looking at next is, okay, so in order to do that, what are we building in terms of our well usage? And so we started with the best water quality. So in this case, Norman Ave well 2 and then Sear wells 4 and 5, those all have, pretty similar water quality, and you can get 1.5 MGD out of those sources. So what you have now is a gap between your wells with the best water quality with a capacity of 1.5 MGD, and then these these different benchmarks we talked about, the 5.2 and the 2.2. And what do you do about that gap in capacity? So there are 3 alternatives that it really comes down to. One is you maintain the 1 MGD you can get out of wells 1 and 2, and we know that would require MIX treatment. There is we completely scrap wells 1 and 2, and then you're only can get 1.5 MGD out of this plant because you're not using them at all. And then there's option 3, which is a blended approach, which is we know our water quality is really good in these 3 wells. How much can we bring the well 1 and 2 up into it where our blended water is within the water quality goals without having to worry about additional treatment. And so that's the case the letter starts to make. And if we look at that blended approach, that gets us somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8 MGD. And 1.8 MGD just happens to be our max day flow on our worst year. So I think a case could be made that when you look at the most cost-effective management, looking at that blended approach may make the most sense financially. So what allows us to do, and if you look at it in terms of like your actual usage, you having the capacity of 1.8 means that you can meet your max day demand with Manley, your primary treatment plant, offline. So that's good resiliency and redundancy to have in your system. So there's certainly a benefit to treating up to that 1.8 number. And when you look at the blended water quality, the TOC, when we get up to that 1.8 MGD, gets to around 3.0 to 3.2 milligrams per liter. And we know that the Manley Street sources right now are 3.4 to 3.8, depending on whether you're running one, the other, or blended. So if the chlorine levels are the same and and the rest of the water quality parameters are the same, there's reason to believe that we're in that ballpark of managing disinfection byproducts to within levels that we would not anticipate causing, issues, certainly not violations. And I guess in the other case to be made is if you operate those wells in such a way that wells 1A and 1B are only used in those worst case scenarios, then you really are minimizing any risk of creating the compounds that are precursors for disinfection byproducts. So, I mean, that's a lot of, so far, is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah. If you were just, if we were hypothetically to shut down 1 and 2, would it ever be a possibility to open them up again, or is it, once you shut them down, that's it?
So that's the trouble, right? So once you give up capacity, it becomes challenging to get them back. So under this scenario, we would keep them online. We would recommend operating them, so that they're no more than 10 to 15% of the total flow going into the system. In doing so, then we can assure that the blended water quality is at minimal risk for the generation of disinfection byproduct precursors.
Into the overall system or into what would be at that plant?
So, based on your system, I would recommend, doing what's in that plant, because I think based on the location of the two, there's not a ton of mixing of the two when they're both operating.
So not 10 to 15% of the system, 10 to 15% of the treatment plant, of that treatment plant's output.
Correct, yeah,
So,
of the Sears Norman treatment
yeah,
plant.
which would bring
Yeah,
us
that's
down, so you're only talking about probably using 75 gallons a minute out of those wells, which is
So
cranking
it's,
them way down.
yeah, so it's enough that you don't lose the source,
Yeah.
but they're not going to be a large part of your long-term goals. And really, if that was capacity that was really, really important to us, I think we're talking, replacement wells, which are risky because you can't move very far and call it a replacement well. And because, I don't know if I mentioned this, but in the water quality results Wayne found is that both of those wells are contributing TOC. We were hoping there was one a bad actor and one that was closer to the others. And of course, that's not what we found, because that would be too easy.
Yeah.
So you're really, where both wells are showing those elevated levels of TOC, you're really looking at a new source. And even if to capture it in this plant, that means you need to stay on the Sierra Norman site. But where it's not a replacement well, you're essentially going through a new source, and you're talking 2 to 5 years in a lot of engineering. And really, with 4 million gallons of storage in your tank, you have some resiliency for peak flows built in.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, you have with the other wells and the other treatment plant, the capacity there. So I think what we've laid out in the letter is a case where, we design that treatment plant for the 1.8 MGD. Plus you'll have the capacity of the 0.69 MGD at Manly that brings your total up to.
Yeah, because when you add that filter on, we gain back capacity. We haven't had 1A and 1B since 2017 when they were rehabbed and it was discovered what was coming up out of them. So we've made it this far. It hasn't been easy, but we made it. And if I can get small amounts out of them, even if I get 100 gallons or 75 gallons a minute out of each of them, that's 150 gallons, that's still production. I didn't like the cost of the MEOX because it's a steady cost.
So, right. So, and it's a brand new process, right? So one of the benefits of this project is that, your staff knows how to operate the Manly Street, and we're using that same technology now at Sierra Norman, and you lose some of that benefit if you introduce this new, treatment process that you have to learn and manage. And like you said, it's, regardless of the capital costs, the O&M costs will never go away. You'll always be buying salt to regenerate, and you'll always have a waste stream that in most cases people are holding and hauling off. And you guys don't have to worry so much about wastewater and sludge, but what we're seeing on that side is it's getting harder and harder to get rid of these waste streams that we've always took for granted, that someone would show up with a truck, take it away, and it wouldn't be our problem anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, right, it's now
How
there's
many people want brine solution?
yeah. So, I mean, we have other communities with TOC issues, and they are looking at it. And there's, one community that, very well may move forward with it. So it's not that it's an unviable solution. We're just not convinced it's the right solution for West Bridgewater.
I mean, it's out of the picture, but coagulation and sedimentation and then, filter presses, is that something possible to take care of that? That's a lot of money, not.
So, yeah, I mean, what we'd be looking at, so coagulation on its own didn't work.
Right.
So if we're going away from MIX and we're going away from coagulation, we're looking at building a surface water treatment plant essentially.
Right.
So we're bringing in DAF, we're bringing in ozone, all these things that,
Yeah.
are just, not typical of a groundwater
Not for that
source.
much water,
No, that's great for
if we have ways to go around it.
Right, and the grade level is an issue too, yeah, so. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of walk through, what's in there, and then to a lesser degree, what's in the letter, so that we can kind of come to, an agreement, whether it's, tonight or I'll come back in 2 weeks, and decide, what do we want to move forward with in terms of the capacity of the, the Sear Norman, water treatment facility.
Dummy question here for you, but we basically right now run those two wells 250 each is what we can run. We turn the pumps on. They'll pump it up to, they'll pump it up to 250. We have VFDs on them.
Yes.
So we can turn them down. So we wouldn't have, it's not like we'd have to put any further restriction. But if something happened and we, Station 2 blew up or something in the middle of summer when we needed to get more water out of there, would we be able to turn those up on a temporary basis and without blowing out the plant? Or would we be, are we gonna be pretty much restricted that, because of the DBP potential, to only running those
So,
at that lower level?
yeah, so you'll have some capacity to buffer that, right? So there's, there's the resiliency in the system to not need to, hammer on it. But also, if, in terms of the likelihood of a disinfection byproduct violation, you'd have to run it for a while, right? So those samples are done on, I think, a 30-day running average, right?
Yeah, we sample one time a year currently, August. It's like the 8th day of the month.
Yeah. So, to get a violation, it's a rolling average. So, if you had to run that harder one given day, it's not likely to result in you exceeding your permit and being in violation.
I mean, there are towns that violate it on a constant basis anyway, because if you're forced to chlorinate for 4 long, you're creating those things. Then I've seen them,
Yeah. Well, right. That's why we work really hard to strike that balance at Manly and.
I know with 1A and 1B, the issue was the color. That's what we were getting hammered. The complaints came from that. Like they could, and it wasn't a color you saw outright. Like now you can see, it has some color to it.
So we would like to use it as little as possible while
Right.
not losing the ability to use it.
That's exactly where we're at. Exactly.
So,
Yeah, and again, it's blended, so that does help with the color. I don't know if we got into it last time, but not all color is a linear relationship. It's not necessarily a mass balance, so it's not necessarily that your color would be reduced 90% if it's only 10% of the flow, but it largely will be blended out.
But if it's feeding through the green sand too, it's gonna help it a little. It's not gonna remove it, but it'll be blended that much further to blend it out. Hopefully.
and bringing that down, we're saving them, should be saving a fair amount of money on the plant based on the
So
size of
our cost estimates were based on, a 2 MGD treatment plant. So, the fact that we are looking potentially at 1 MGD treatment plant and not adding MIX is definitely a better position than we were worried about, 6 weeks ago when we were trying to figure out how we were going to afford, a MIX system.
I kind of personally, I like that idea of going that way. You want to take some time.
With the blending?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea with the blending.
Because we do, have to keep, you know, since small town, not a lot of rate
Yeah.
payers, to anything we can do to save money, but the other end is not to waste, why spend a whole ton of money on something if we don't really need it? Then we just have to make sure we keep the other thing in good, as good operating position as we can.
I mean, one thing we've talked about is some of the wells now that, you know, we don't feel like we're getting as much out of it as we could, that's gonna be improving, right? So we're taking care of some of the water quality issues that have resulted in us not wanting to use some wells. But, you know, we're most likely replacing all of the well pumps as part of this project, which is included in the cost estimate. Because we're now pumping through filters with additional head loss. So the cost of the project includes you getting new well pumps essentially. So, you know, if the well pumps were cause for reduced capacity, you know, we're eliminating that source of inefficiency as well. So, you know, I think a lot of the frustration from these wells in the past has been, you know, the unreliability. And luckily this project, well, not luckily, it's by design, you know, is cleaning up a lot of those issues, so.
Yeah, how old are the different pumps that we have in those?
So the pumps are, when I rehab the wells, I replaced the pump because I don't want to wait for it to break down. It's another 10 grand to have them come out and replace the motor, so they're kept up to date. I just rehabbed Norman Ave. I'm gonna rehab State Well 4 in a couple of, you know, within the month. So I keep rehabbing all the wells. Mainly will get done next year.
No, you're gonna have to have a little bit larger motor, or you're gonna actually come up with a different pump, probably if you're going through those filters.
You
Quite
guys
possibly, yeah, so.
stay with the same pitless adapter, because Norman Ave right now is up for having the pitless adapter replaced next year. It's done.
Okay.
So if you're just gonna hang up, you know, on the poles that exist, then that's different. If you know, the pipe that goes down, I believe it's 4-inch going down. If you're gonna be upgrading that, then that's, you know, that would be taking the well heads off.
Yeah, which might be the case. So when would you be doing that?
So they're giving me prices, but I'm looking at it for next year, not this year.
Okay. So we'll have we'll know by then.
Yeah, you'll know.
And at
probably.
that point, we can decide, do we just put it off, live with it?
Yeah, it wouldn't be until October. If I did it in the fall or across the winter, it would be like February or March.
Yeah, because we wanna coordinate
Right.
that.
Well, we talked
Because if
about
we can
that.
get it done as part of that
I-
project, we
Right, I don't wanna
need-
be in any hurry if it's gonna get done out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, I wouldn't want you spending money on something where they have to rip out.
Right. But I do rehab the wells regularly.
That's why I kinda asked how old they
Yeah,
were, because I didn't think there was anything that's.
no, they're less than
Yeah.
4. All of them are less than 4 years old.
But they do tend to get,
Yeah, mainly it gunks right up. Like that might be 2 years. Like when they pulled that up, they pulled it up after 6 months, and you could take the putty knife and shave it off of it. It's really heavy in iron and manganese.
But I think the meter replacement's gonna help. The
Yeah.
conversion to Green Sand Plus is gonna help.
Yep.
So even that, you know, you said you've seen, you know, a potential decrease in effectiveness of that media, you're gonna get that back as well.
Right.
So in terms of submitting to DEP, the pilot report is issued, we're issuing it to you as draft. We'd be looking for kind of your approval to submit to DEP. And one thing that, one component of that is in our final section is recommendations for treatment. So this report serves as the basis that they're going to review our design on. So we do want to, when we submit that, we've written it right now essentially as, to recommend not moving forward with MIAX. So if that, continues to be our recommendation, then there'll be very little to do in terms of getting that into DEP. And then that's going to serve, like I said, as the basis of design when they do our, our technical review of our plans and specs, they're gonna make sure that it's adhering to their approval of that report. So that's why we wanna.
When does the report need to go in?
So it's not technically on the critical path at the moment, but the sooner the better. We feel confident enough moving forward with design that we will do so the day that's submitted. But there is potential feedback loop there, so we don't want to delay for no reason. But in terms of our long-term goal of having the design and everything done by October, that's not holding us up. The decision of the flow rate will start to hold us up.
How long does it take for the review to go through or to finish?
I think we've been seeing anywhere from 30 to 60 days lately.
But if we did that back to you in a month?
Yeah.
I think we'll probably know what we're gonna decide anyway. Just give it a couple of weeks to think on it and decide at the next meeting.
Yeah, have time to
If everybody's comfortable with.
Can I just reiterate what I think I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of information and I'm trying to read
Yes.
this at the same time at points. So the proposal is to reduce rates at these stations for what we're proposing to build for a plant. And to only treat for iron manganese and not treat for color with MIX and treat for color by blending.
Yeah, but the only wells we're recommending reducing their production are the two with the TOC. So well 1A and 1B.
So that's station one.
So we're not.
At 10 to 15%? Can we try to run those at 10 to 15 now and see if
If
we
I
have
ran them,
issues?
so when I did run them, I was running very low at like 75. And it didn't take, within an hour I was getting calls.
So would that not, how would that change?
I mean, I think because, correct me if I'm wrong, when you were running at those rates, you weren't running the other four sources.
Yeah. I don't have a mixer, so it goes out the pipe and it hits the other water, but if it's there, it's not mixed and it hasn't gone through it's not finitely mixed. There's no static mixer in the system, and it ran down its own pipe and then hit the system. But it, at that same point, it was hitting other. But
again, it's not mixing the way it.
Right.
Properly mixed, right?
And I don't think mixing with the same volume of water. So we're talking about only, you're only turning those wells on when you need more than the 1.5 you're already getting. And I can't imagine there were many times you were running that well and putting a 1.8 MGD into your system at once.
Right.
With the other one off. Like that's the actual. So the use of that well is, that we're proposing is outside, I think, of any past experience you have with it.
we haven't had those wells since 2017.
Right.
So anything that we
I
get
just,
out of
I was just trying to make sure that we're not gonna
to me,
reduce the capacity of the plant and then still have color issues.
Right. So as long as you don't run those wells, there's your color issues will be fine, right? Because
But we have to run them enough to keep them active, right?
yeah, you'll run them every now and then just to kind of keep them active, and it'll be, overall, a reduced amount.
Okay.
Now, in the pilot, did you test anything on what the color would be with that blend?
No. So that's one of the limitations of the data we had is we also didn't look at wells 1A and 1B separately, which is why Wayne went out and did some additional sampling for us. So in terms of doing an actual blending analysis, it's all been tabletop. So, we have a spreadsheet essentially that does the mass flow. We looked at multiple scenarios. All of these we presented you with also like a couple other random ones that, which we could share that with you too if you're interested in seeing, what the actual blended TOC looks like. We could add color to the table if you were curious. Again, it would be an approximation at best. The other thing we could do is, with Wayne's help, collect some water, make a blend, and, fake it,
Yeah, we're not doing another pilot
No.
test, you just have to take the samples.
It'd be something Tim, Howard, and Wayne could collaborate on to, take the samples, blend them at the right dosage, and take that sample and send it off and see what it looks like.
Well, that might be worth, just in case it turns out that that blend doesn't work. Because I think that's where you're going.
That's my concern.
If the blend doesn't work, should we,
Now we just built a small plant for no reason.
well, no, it would still be, it wouldn't be for no reason. The idea is really, is it worth spending the additional money to be able to use those 2 wells?
So if the
You're
blending
talking
doesn't
about
work,
Much bigger.
if the blending doesn't work and you've moved on from the MIAX, it essentially means your plant would max out at 1.5 now, right? Because what would happen is
Right.
the blending's not working, so instead of running those at 10 to 15%, you're leaving them off. You're abandoning the source at that point, which means you're getting 1.5 out of your plant, which honestly probably could be enough.
Yeah.
But where with the blending,
You're saying without man, could be enough without man. Or-
yeah, right. Because I think if we look, if you throw out that year with the break, we've been around 1.2
Yeah.
max day since then.
And the build out is like 2.5 max day.
Yeah, so I think we did put that in the letter. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily hit on that today, but we looked at the asset management. I think that was 2.3 MGD was the max day, which you would get with Manly, and the 1.8. Technically, we did the build out analysis, and that would be 2.79, so it'd be falling, just shy of that. But to hit that, you were talking about adding an additional treatment or a new source anyway.
I mean, if the plan is built for 1.5, and they come up with some process to remove all of that without using the salt brine, and you can use it, then you're just gonna be turning wells on and off, because you're not gonna run that much. You'd just be able to rest the well. If you gain 1A and 1B back in full, something happens miraculously and somebody comes out with a media that takes it out, then you gain them back. You don't have them right now, you can't run them. Their manganese levels are also off the chart, it's like 1.0 and above.
Okay.
But if there
But
was
that would be
something.
treated with the green sand plus, though, right?
Yeah, so that would bring that
But
down.
if, like you said, if somehow somebody came up with a media that could go into a vessel, it would take the color out
Right.
on that. Could potentially put that in line before this plant and throw the extra, or take that color out and bring
Then
that
you'd just
back
be able
up.
to rest
But
your
then,
other wells.
Yeah. I mean, we are putting a cap of 1.8, so, run that 100%, you're turning another well off. But, in order to maintain that capacity for what if is a capital cost. And then an oversized plant that you're not actually running at that capacity.
So, maybe a dumb question, but with the smaller plant and without the MIAX, can we treat for PFAS? Is there additional wiggle room in there to put in equipment for PFAS?
Are you saying, is the budget savings enough to pay for PFAS? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I don't believe so, no. I think we'd probably be significantly lacking in budget still for that.
Okay.
I think, it wouldn't be the same cost as Manly, because that's a new building and everything, and we're gonna already be, sizing the building for the vessels, just for the what if. But that was, we're looking at a $4 million, treatment plant upgrade over there. So I don't think we're saving $4 million going from, 2.0 to 1.8 MGD. Especially since we're probably using some of that savings by putting some, extra concrete and building out there for eventual PFAS.
Yeah, because it's gonna come, it's just.
Matter of time.
Yeah.
well,
There's no one ever tested at 10 in the last test.
did it?
The others are all around 4, so once again, the blending issue could bring that, if they're all blended, it could bring it down.
Which one was 10?
Norman Ave. I gotta send you the results, I got them back. I just,
Yeah, anytime you share, we don't mind looking at it.
yep, no, I'll send it in, I just haven't.
No, and that is straight mass balance when we blend that, so
Yeah.
we can't keep that. Operationally, try to keep the output of that plant down.
Right. On the other side, Manly tested at 47 in the raw.
You're kidding.
No, it went up.
Yeah, I mean, it was 22, 23 before.
Yeah. There's gotta be something going on, I mean, whether it's the water table being high for so
And the
long,
driveway
change
well
where
was
it's
20.
coming from.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Get that online.
we're gonna test, yeah, we're gonna test that media real quick.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm pulling samples again tomorrow, so.
what around there has changed? I mean, they just put that.
Other than the warehouse,
Yeah.
nothing really. And that was all dirt bikes and whatever, there's never, that I know of anything ever been out there.
No, putting in the warehouse shouldn't have changed anything
No,
for PFAS.
no, but we had, like last year was a ton of rain and it still hasn't stopped. We're not getting any snowpack for slow trickle in, but we're getting tons of rain.
Yeah, maybe something's flushing through now that,
I can't flush past.
well, you shut the wells off long enough, it'll shut. But you
Yeah.
kinda need to use them.
Yeah.
Alright. No, that's real nice that we have that actually online and running now, cause
Oh,
if we had to put a notice out to that number.
no, that would have been bad.
So, does it make sense to come back in 2 weeks and kind of see if we're ready to make a decision on that particular item? Is that
Yeah,
enough time?
yeah, I just need some time to process it.
Yeah, I mean, again, the letter is meant to kind of give you the cliff notes of the report, you know, the expectation being that, you know, if you, I mean, by all means, read that cover to cover. I have, it's,
Cost estimate breakdown in there for
um,
potential, nothing, okay.
it's just, essentially a review of all the data from the pilot testing, what it means, and what we're doing about it.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting away from the MIAX. I just don't wanna, in 4 years, wishing we did something different.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, if you think 2 weeks is good, I'll come back and we can continue the conversation. If you need more time, just give me a heads up, I'll come to the
Oh,
follow-up.
so plan on 2 weeks, and if not, we'll let you know.
Okay.
That would probably be the better way to. 'Cause we wanna keep it moving too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we got this survey in, we've done the wetlands, as you know, we're doing everything we can to be ahead of the 8 ball on this one. Whereas, you know, PFAS, I think we had a lot of late nights and busy weekends hitting these deadlines and, you know, asking you guys in return to turn things around really quickly for us and asking DEP to turn things around really quickly. So, you know, the earlier we make these big decisions, you know, the more smooth the rest goes.
So is there any money to make a green plant for solar or something to help? I know they're gonna ask me later, so.
Like,
Well, in other words, would there be a way, if we went to put this out to bid, and we're looking for state money, obviously, to help fund it, would there be additional monies available if we said, look, we're gonna put on solar panels
oh,
to, you know, make the plant more green, so we're not running, you know, I don't know how much of the pumping we could run, but maybe the,
I see what you mean,
you know,
yeah.
the building and the controls and stuff could run off of that. Is there gonna be any kind of funding for that?
I'm not sure.
That might be worth.
You know, I can ask around the office if anyone's heard of anything like that, like on the municipal side.
Yeah.
I mean, there certainly have been, you know, applications that we've done where you scored better with green initiatives. But in terms of like an alternate source to supplement the SRF, I'd have to do a little bit of digging on that, I'm not sure.
Or even if they pay more, you know, would they increase what they give us if the cost is higher, because we're putting in panels
Got it.
and doing that?
I've never heard of that, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's, you know, impossible.
In the States, we're gonna cut down half the forests in the state to put solar panels up, so, you know, putting some on a water treatment plant might not be a
Yeah,
bad idea.
yeah.
And actually, where that plant's going is fairly exposed, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they're still figuring out where they're gonna put it.
But
So,
that
yeah,
whole
so-
area roughly.
You know when you come in, instead of turning right to come down in here, if you just go straight,
Yeah.
and then you go straight till you can't anymore, there's like a sandy plateau. That's one of our favorite alternatives at the moment in terms of siting the treatment plant. So we're looking for initiatives.
Basically right there.
Yeah, just something, we've been trying to figure out a way to do something around here. You know, solar and with getting better in efficiency, and we're not really coming up with a heck of a lot of potential with the solar stuff.
We had UMass Amherst do an energy study, but there's no money out there for the solar panels currently. Doing lights and things like that, yep.
Yeah, is it switch to LED, you mean?
Yeah.
That type of stuff, yeah.
So, questions for him on that?
Nope, see you in 2 weeks.
Well, no, you have anything, you must have something else for us.
Well, I mean, a couple other, more questions for you. So I think last time I provided a proposal for the altitude valves for Walnut. And I didn't think about bringing copies again this time, so I apologize. But I didn't know if there was any, questions, comments, concerns related to that.
We hadn't had any separate discussion at the last meeting.
No,
About
I mean,
that, actually.
if I remember, it was one altitude valve, and to see if there was enough space to actually get it done.
Yeah, so the idea is we get into preliminary design, get any information we can on there, go out and do our own investigations we need to, and just confirm there's enough space to bring them together before sending them back out, right? Because right now they both come into the line separately, but it shouldn't be complicated to bring them together first and then bring them back in. I think it was more you confirmed we wouldn't need to do the whole tapping sleeve and valve thing, which is good because that would have maybe increased the cost estimate. Not the proposal with design engineering, but
Yeah.
your eventual cost estimate. Those are A, people don't like them being in their system long term, and B, they're pricey.
Oh, yeah, they're not cheap at all.
And then I guess lead service.
That's signed, I just had to
Okay.
figure out.
Where it is.
She did take it, and, because it wasn't here the next day, because I was gonna send it to you. It is signed.
All right. So then I guess the next step is, do you want us to resubmit our contract for engineering?
Well, they signed the contract you submitted.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, you should be, assuming we can find it.
Yeah, I just gotta figure out where it
You
went.
should be all set.
All right, perfect. Then, so we do have a sub-consultant, so once we have that, we'll have them go. As you may recall, we have a sub doing some of the work just for the disenfranchised businesses component.
I believe our postcards went out, she had to run off, so. But I believe our postcard mailings are going out.
I think that's all I have, unless I missed something on your agenda.
So if we try to think a bit more on Walnut Street, maybe when you come in the next time, we can get you that.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you need anything more between now and then, let me know and I can send it on. And then, perfect, then 2 weeks to kind of mull over the letter.
Yeah,
And
like I said,
report.
if we need more time, but I think we'll just put a deadline on it for ourselves, letter, and if anybody wants to, come in and look at the pilot report.
I can always mail more copies, I can send you PDFs when it,
I can't read thick
I
things in PDFs.
I'm the same way.
It's brutal. I mean, if one of these guys wants PDFs, you can read it on your iPad.
Sure, forward along.
Forward
along.
Yeah. And then
But in terms of hard copies, you good with the one?
just leave the one hard copy, I think. And as long as we keep things moving. Anybody have anything else for him?
More money.
More questions?
Yeah.
It's all money.
Yeah.
But that's why too, if we can kind of bring some stuff down and save a little with not really hurting our operational, I mean, it's better for the town if we can do that. And the quality is that bad with the color in that thing that there's also not a lot of point spending a ton of money on capacity that we can't use.
So is there actually a mixing valve that you would use to mix the?
No. I mean, they have static mixers, but I don't know whether it would, and you'd have to get the two pipes together and have a length of run before it hit the street. And then try a slow roll blend and see what happens. I'm not sure I actually mixed it when we were running it, because it shoots out by Norman Ave, at the top of Norman Ave. That's the line you see right there,
Yeah.
running along Vital. And that's where it was going out. So when we were sending it out, we were not running Station 2.
So wherever that was hit, anybody near
Yeah.
that was getting it straight out of those
Oh, it
wells.
went right down.
See, when you do that on your screen, it doesn't show up on the.
Yeah, no,
Just so you know.
I know the
I can
customers
see
I've
what the
heard
other
from.
one he's indicating.
So that's one of the differences now. It all comes together, goes through the plant, and then goes out together. So
Then you would.
we won't have a mixer per se, but it is being.
Well, just the fact of going through the vessels and stuff through the media, it's gonna mix in the process. Especially if it's a small
So what is the actual discoloration of the discoloration? What causes the discoloration? Is it?
Yeah, so it's actually, it's organic material in the water. So it ultimately is coming from either the soil or, broken down vegetation. So there's
peat bog or
probably,
something.
it's probably
Yeah.
organics in the soil that's being, taken up by the water.
I would have thought the sand pit well would have been better.
I know, right? So, Manly, you can almost make sense, right? It's on the edge of the river. Even the driveway one is, you can toss a rock to the river. But out here, aside from the wetlands and the easement over there, like there's, it's not common, to find organics that high, in a groundwater that's, gravel packed well and pretty sandy material. If you look at wells 4 and 5, they're, under 2, and these were, in our most recent round, on average 10. And we saw some results even higher during, piloting when they were taking, samples.
Just something in the ground somewhere that it's.
Yeah.
Oh, were those in, those older wells as far as overall?
Yeah, those are,
So
yeah.
those are the ones maybe they've been being pumped the longest too, maybe they pulled.
That's
from
possible. The deep back.
Before we lose James, do we have something on the replacement well? Wasn't there a contractor or somebody we were gonna poke?
So we're still going on, Manley Street it's not programmed yet.
Oh, okay.
Was that Manly?
Yeah,
So, to be fair, the contractor couldn't do it until we had authorization for water to go into the system.
Yep.
But now that we have that, I will ping him to make sure he knows, like, hey, the clock's on, get in, get this done, and be done with this.
yeah, we're doing it manually now, so we have to backwash.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Has he even been notified? Because we wouldn't have notified the contractor
Well,
directly.
No, that would have been us,
Yeah.
so I'll check with Victor and make sure that the contractor knows that we're expecting him to be out there doing it.
Yeah, because he might not even know that we're going to the system.
Right.
There was nothing for the replacement well?
So the replacement well currently we haven't had any issues. And I did see when he was here, he did put in the speeds, so I can slow them down.
And then the amperage draw ended up being a non-issue, or are you still concerned about it?
Well, Mike and the electrician have to be back here at the same time. He did something in the VFD to limit it so he couldn't go above.
Okay.
So when they both get here at the same time, he can remove whatever he limited, and we just know we can never run above 80% or whatever that percentage is decided on.
But the 80% is still.
Still a good amount of water. We're not, yeah. We only lost like 50 gallons a minute when he slowed it down.
Out of how much?
Because that will have some overhead, I know, in terms of like the well capacity compared to the.
It was 205, and I think we went down to like 180 out of it.
Anything else you want to go over with us?
I think I'm good. Look forward to seeing you guys in 2 weeks. Appreciate your time. Sorry for keeping you guys late this week.
No, we had a lot, you know, some meetings go real quick, some meetings don't, that's all.
Very good. All right, well,
But
thank you.
it's good that everything's moving along
Yeah.
well, and we're, you know, right now, we're in good shape on things.
I think so, yeah.
So-
We're, again, you know, it's been a good experience with DEP too, in terms of, you know, you never know when things go into review. And, you know, see both on the administrative review and technical review to get, you know, minimal comments back is, you know, confidence building for the team and speeds things up as, you know, having to go back into the feedback loop always adds time, so.
Yeah.
Things are going well.
And we'll probably have to plan on, for this, the one for Norman Ave and Sear Street, we'll probably have to be planning on doing the cybersecurity and that stuff for
We know it's
that,
coming.
so, we can at least build that in ahead of time, we'll know that's gonna come.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you know, I think we gave you a proposal for budget reasons on our construction admin, but I don't believe we're under contract yet, because one of the things we need to figure out is the right amount of time on, you know, in the field for that, and, you know, where, you know, what DEP is gonna require. So, you know, we could take a look at our proposal and hope, you know, hopefully, you know, see which items, if any, you need us to help you with. You know, have we done your ERP and ERP training in the past?
Yeah, you just did it, this past December.
Okay.
And I think all the ERPs are coming up, they do like a 5-year thing, that it's coming due again.
So, I mean, that might be an easy one to help you guys out with, you know, the ERP update. But we'll start getting your heads wrapped around it, and like you said, we'll be in good shape for the next treatment plant because we won't be caught off guard by it.
Yeah, it won't be a surprise, we can handle that up front with them, so they won't stick us with extra conditions.
Right.
And then, by then, they'll have other conditions to add.
Yeah, the next hot topic.
All right, well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Have a nice ride out. Forget to give that to her. All right, let's see, we talked about Walnut Street tank while he's here. I think we hit solar.
Yep.
Have anything on the rates and service fees?
No, I haven't had time, I'm like sampled out. It'll eventually, at the end of another 14 days, it'll slow down. Like,
Okay.
and then the Pitless, he kind of touched on that, but we'll have to wait on that one. He'll give me a price, they'll give me a price anyways, but the threads you see at the bottom, those are sealed in, so if the well has to come up and out again, they're gonna have to cut them off. They leaked, so they didn't have a choice, they had to seal it, the riser pipe to it.
All right, so now,
So where the threads are, that's the end of the pitless adapter?
Yeah, and that's where the 4-inch riser goes down, 50 feet
Yeah, okay.
to the 3 pump bowls, and then
Yeah.
on the bottom of that is the electric motor. And then what you see, the slot, that's where the water comes up and goes out into the chamber and out the pipe, out the 6-inch pipe to it, which increases.
but now that's gonna have to be cut, they'd have to cut it and then re-weld the piece,
Well,
or
I-
replace the adapter.
So I don't know whether it's all sold as one. So they have a problem, they keep knocking the bottom gasket off. It doesn't seat correctly, so they have issues getting it to seat. So I don't know whether it's the whole thing, the steel case down into where the pipe comes out, or they can replace that one part.
Figure it out. See, you got capital summary formula for us?
Yeah, so I put them up because they do this Friday.
We've got
So-
free cash has been certified?
Yeah, I think we have, because we put off 700,000 or 750 or something to preliminary engineering. So it brought it down, so I believe there's 100,000 left there, and we're only gonna take, I wanna say that's probably about 30,000 or 40, yeah. It's not a lot.
Good, because Sierra Norman Avenue was a lot.
Yeah.
Everything went all right at the budgets. I mean, I know it was fine at the selectmen's meeting. I'm assuming the FinCom went the same.
Yeah, they were all,
Issues.
yeah, they were all nice.
Let's move. Let's move. Ask some questions and we handle it very professional.
Right, last item on the agenda, interconnection discussion. Have you had anything more with Old Colony?
So I didn't get to go to the last one. I truly wish I had been there, but I mean, I think Brockton's open for discussions. That's why I really didn't want to do the MEOX, because there was a cost of operation there, and somebody taking salt brine might become very difficult later on. So, I mean, but it's still gonna pay, even for an interconnection, if you just took a little out of them,
Must be a lot of money.
it's still $1 million plus, because you've got to tie in somewhere. You need a vault into the ground with checks and meters, and it's not just connect it up and do it. There's effort involved.
Well, I'm going to meet on Wednesday, that other group that's in Brockton's involved with that, so I'm not sure why they go in parallel. It's Environmental Partners and Quincy's coordinator. I'll be going to that Wednesday afternoon, and we'll see what they're coming up with. They're supposedly just trying to get more of a interest gauging from everybody on what they might think for a need, if they want, you know, emergency, redundancy,
Right.
whatever. And maybe probably gonna start looking at what they can get for information, basic stuff on the chemistry as far as who's gonna have issues. But
Yeah.
we can put that off for a while. This is their first meeting that they're holding,
Yeah.
so.
How is Brockton's water?
So other than it being highly chlorinated, I mean, it's okay. I'm not sure that they've sent out any PFAS notices. But they take they must have fixed a lot of things, but the people are upset about the withdrawal from Silver Lake, I guess.
I've always been upset about
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and those are things that were settled long ago before any of us or any of our parents were born, so.
Well, I mean, the whole reason initially for the desal plant was to get them off of Silver Lake. They weren't able to take enough water, but then they fixed all the leaky pipes they had. And they don't really, you know, now that's why they're on the hook for the desal plant water, and they don't
Right.
really need to use it, because they can get, you know, they were wasting so much water before, what was coming out of there. But I mean, as far as I know, yeah, the water itself that they produce there's nothing wrong with it.
No.
And it comes through, you know, I think it's all pretty much cement line, iron pipe, all the way from Silver Lake to Brockton. So,
Brockton had some wells once
Yeah,
upon a time.
yeah, and I don't know.
right down the street from you.
How about Ave? I think they had one. Yeah.
But those haven't been used in forever, as far as I know. Because when I worked at CDM, we were looking at the Brockton water system stuff. And yeah, there was no interest in even trying to bring those back. They were looking only at using, they had real bad water quality issues with those, iron and manganese, at least iron. So, no, there's always a potential, like you said, if we needed to be able to come up with something for an emergency to be able to pick a little up, we would be better off spending the money to make a connection to somebody, whether it was Brockton or, you know, one of the other towns around.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody has excess capacity.
Well, that's part of what they're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah. The one meeting I did get to go to, it didn't look like it was going anywhere. It was more of a meet and greet, and even when I saw it come out, it didn't seem, I don't think the second meeting went too well.
Well, when they ran that desal line down 138 down to Turnpike Street, weren't they?
They were supposed to have,
Tapping or
they were
something?
supposed to have an interconnection right at the end of my street.
Yeah, right.
They never even put the vault in. For whatever reason, it got left out.
But that would be an area that we could, that could be tapped into.
Yeah, I don't think the main on my street's big, would probably have to.
No,
run
they'd have
main
to run all the way up
up
to
to Manley
Manley.
Street to get something big enough to be able to take a decent amount of water. And then, yeah, the desal plant water is different than the regular Brockton water, so I don't know what the deal would be.
Yeah, I've heard diesel,
That-
but it doesn't taste so good.
That wouldn't have any PFAS, though, because I think that reverse osmosis.
Yeah,
So that
yeah, so you
PFAS
strip everything.
You wouldn't have any issue with that, but yeah, it's like you strip everything out,
Yeah,
the taste goes off.
yeah.
But again, if it was something for, an emergency connection type thing, that, the world,
Right.
something meteor hit the Manley Street plant or something, would be able to turn something on.
Are there any hydrants off that line? Off of that desal line? Or is it just
I think it's straight transmission all the way to Brockton, I don't think there are any hydrants on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is.
'Cause that's a good size, that's like a 36
Yeah, it's a big
inch
pipe.
pipe, the hydrants wouldn't, it'd be a town fire, but it's not, the town doesn't own any of those pipes.
Right.
The towns it goes through, so I don't know if they'd want,
Yeah, I don't even think they're actually sending any water up the pipe either.
I thought.
I think they have to use some
I
amount to
think
maintain the
that Brockton
contract.
has to pay for a certain amount, I think it basically hooks up and runs to waste.
Right.
Or it was, I don't know.
Yeah, they have to be able to come online.
Because that's why Brockton was looking to buy the plant,
Yeah,
so then they could, get out of the contract.
right.
But I mean, again, as far as I know, the water, it does produce the water. That plant's gotta be old enough now, almost to be starting to need upgrades again.
Yeah, that's like 10 years.
It's older
More
than
than
that.
that.
But it's close, over 20.
Yeah. That's why I think because I think their contract is starting to get towards the end too, which might be why these things are starting to get a little more in people's minds as far as what to do for water. But no, like I said, I'll go to that, I'm gonna be going to that one on Wednesday, I'll let you know what they're talking about, what they're saying, and if you hear anything else on Old Colony. Because again, while we're talking about doing these things, especially the issue with the capacity of the new plant, if there is alternate stuff out there,
Yeah,
it'd be good to have that. And it makes it easier to give up a little bit of capacity
Right.
out of those wells. If we knew if we got stuck, we could get the water from someplace else. Okay. That runs us through the agenda. Anything else other than the next meeting, which would be, is that a Monday that we have to move to Tuesday?
yeah, there's a holiday coming up, Patriots Day or something.
Let's see. It would be.
April.
Oh. No,
It would be on the 18th.
It'd be the 18th, I'm not seeing a holiday.
St. Patrick's Day is the day before.
Yeah, that's not, they're not.
Yeah, but the only place that gets Monday off for St. Patrick's Day will be in Boston for evacuation day.
Right.
Scam and a half. All right, so the next meeting will be the 18th at 5 o'clock. And anybody have anything else they want to bring up this evening?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned at 6:46.